Welcome back, Joe and Transformers fans alike. In part 2 of my HasLab G.I. Joe Classified Dragonfly XH-1 review, we dive into the 4 exclusive figures included: Wild Bill, Glenda, Night Force Ripcord, and Night Force Crazylegs. I'll break down the details, offer display ideas, and showcase epic action shots with the Dragonfly and other G.I. Joe vehicles and figures. Plus, don't miss my special spotlight on the entire G.I. Joe Classified Night Force line. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for an action-packed review filled with everything you need to know about these awesome classified figures. Only on Heroic Nonsense. Let's go. Alright guys, as promised, part 2 of my review of the awesome G.I. Joe Classified Dragonfly, this time focusing on the 4 exclusive figures it comes with. And if you're interested in the copter itself and even more action shots and info, there'll be a link to part 1 right at the end of this episode. Why should you watch a HasLab special? Well, if you're a fan of G.I. Joe, these types of reviews are hopefully fun and entertaining and might give you some ideas for your own collection. I also heard that Hasbro may actually release some of these vehicles in addition to the figures in the future as different scaled back versions. Plus, if you're wondering whether it was worth getting some or all of the release on the secondary market, this could help you decide. And of course, most importantly, for the love of all things G.I. Joe. So let's jump right in and get this roll call going. So we're finally here with the in-depth look at the 4 exclusive figures that the Dragonfly came with, and these are some really cool ones. My favorite being Wild Bill himself. Out of all 4, they really knocked this one out of the park, and as you'll see in a moment, he's perfect the whole way through. As he is such an iconic figure, I assume he will be released on his own in the retro line, or even as a repaint for some of the sublines. And if they do half as good a job on those as they did here, we'll all be very happy. Now this one they'll for sure release in this mold in his regular colors, but I'm a total sucker for the special units, whether they be Cobra or G.I. Joe, and when it comes to Night Force, I'm all in. I actually only own the Night Force version of the original 1/18 scaled Crazylegs, so was I happy to hear that they were making this version part of that team as well. He really does capture the essence of the original, which I will compare at some later date when we'll look at some new Night Force releases. As for Glenda, I have zero attachment to this figure and to be honest would have loved a different character. She's fine, but is really basic in design and stands out from the rest of the team and even the rest of our collection with this bright blue and white deco. I get why they included her, since if you're going to throw in some figures as part of a HasLab, you don't want to include a major character that everyone would want. Still, I could totally have done without her, but fine to have her in our collection as a bonus. Now Ripcord is one of those figures I never had as a kid and always thought was a cool character. As far as this set goes, he comes right after Wild Bill as my next favorite design of the lot, especially with his awesome black design and perfectly sculpted black helmet. My original of this one that came with the Dragonfly pretty much broke right out of the box, so I was worried that was it. Luckily, Hasbro customer service, which is really great in general, was able to replace him fairly quickly. He's a great figure and will be a fun one to see in his original retro style when they decide to release him. So here he is, the man of the hour, the cool as ice expert pilot of the Dragonfly, the as iconic figure and character as a helicopter itself, Wild Bill. Again, I missed the boat on the original 1/18 Dragonfly and never had any version of Wild Bill, so I have to say a good part of the appeal of getting the Dragonfly was also getting a classified Wild Bill figure. He comes with some fun accessories, specifically his removable glasses, his 2 sidearm revolvers, and both his signature Union-style cowboy hat and separate hairpiece, as well as a combined version for multiple display options, which I will have a lot of fun with and showcase throughout this episode. While he does have a mostly monotone uniform, there are a ton of details in the design. There are also layers of accessories and outerwear that add to his overall look, which, when it all comes together, makes for a fantastic Wild Bill figure. His blue hat definitely has a big part to play in his look, and just sits so perfectly on his head when using the molded on version. Add in the glasses and that perfectly coiffed mustache, and you have yourself one heck of a cool figure. What I love is that you can replace the one-piece hair and hat unit and have some fun with the hat itself, which does fit over the separate piece of hair, albeit a bit more awkwardly and a size 1 too big. However, the hat in this case is there to be able to create this type of awesome pose, and if you're going to give the option to do something like this, Wild Bill is the guy to do it for. Like I said, there are more ways than one to use this feature, and I'll even have another fun one in the action shots part to show you. Do you guys have any others I haven't thought of? Let me know in the comments section. Having these 2 removable sidearms are also such a great bonus. I mean, how many Joe characters do we have with authentic Old West looking revolvers? The guns are relatively intricately designed and even have these embedded stars on the handle. It's these type of details that make all the difference. If you want the more relaxed version of Wild Bill before mission, you can also take off his glasses, which reveals a really nicely sculpted face, one of the best I've seen for this line. Is anyone else getting a Kurt Russell vibe from this sculpt? Now I'm thinking he'd make an awesome Wild Bill if they ever get around to making a live-action G.I. Joe movie again. A couple of close-ups so you can see how well proportioned that one-piece hair and hat piece looks with and without the glasses, which stay on fairly well. Unfortunately, he only comes with one pair, so if you lose it, that's pretty much it. Love that gold Union-style officer's design on the hat as well, along with the black tassels. Again, it's these types of details that count. His belt and holsters are also really beautifully designed, and they hold his sidearms nicely. Love the brown US flag on his left arm as well. You can also see how much detail are on his cuffs, which is a really nice touch to his uniform, which itself is a combo between a flight suit and an Old West cowboy's outfit. Additional patch on his right arm just for him as a pilot of the Dragonfly. Zippers, pouches, separate vest, knife sheath, and all really make Wild Bill's uniform that could have been very bland look incredible. And check out that silver belt buckle. I'm telling you, they went all in on his design. The legs portion of his uniform represent his design and character perfectly. Part modern day flight suit, part gunslinger with those highly detailed cowboy boots. He doesn't come with a backpack, parachute, or anything, but he's not the type that would ever abandon the love of his life. So like I said earlier, my ripcord broke and had to be replaced. Luckily I was able to keep the extra helmet, which allowed me to give both Ripcord and Wild Bill similar modern day realistic pilot looks. Now I do plan on keeping his iconic cowboy hat on for most of the time, even while piloting, but I will likely switch it up once in a while since, as you'll see in a bit, these guys look very cool together in this gear when piloting the Dragonfly. And in case you do have this and want to create a similar look, if you can get your hands on the 60th anniversary Halo jumpers, you get the same helmet but in a slightly different color. So overall, one of my favorite figures of the entire classified line. Alright, on to Ripcord, my next favorite down the line. Although he's basically all in black, something about his character and design speaks to me, and the fact that he is part of Night Force is icing on the cake. Whether it's Transformers or G.I. Joe, I'm a total sucker for figures that are mainly painted black. He actually comes with a good amount of accessories, many of which are also from the 60th anniversary Halo Jumper release. We'll take a look at these in more detail as we go through some of these images. He's basically got on a black flight suit, and from what I can see, the same one Wild Bill is sporting. The difference is really around all the add-ons Wild Bill comes with for his vest, arm guards, belt, etc. Instead, Ripcord has on some jump gear as his main gear uniform accessory, and comes with that awesome flight helmet and a ton of extra weapons. Since he's a part of Night Force, he gets a version of the Night Force patch on his right upper arm, similar in design to the other members of the team. He has an altitude gauge on his left wrist, which is a nice build and is detailed with numbers and a dial and a bit of color. Ripcord also comes with a sidearm and holster, plus another very cool Night Force patch, which uses the actual Night Force logo this time, which I believe is the first we've seen on a figure. He has some blue goggles which might seem a bit out of place on its own, but trust me when I say it will all come together incredibly well when added to the rest of his headgear. Now this is where this figure really shines, once his all black helmet, visor, and breathing apparatus are added in. Let's take a closer look. As there are multiple ways to display and use the helmet, I'll start with my least favorite, which is the helmet with visor open and no rebreather. But if you add in the goggles, you can see how much cooler this specific look becomes. Alternatively, taking off the goggles and using the mask hanging off the side looks really cool as well, and I like that you can remove it or leave it hanging from one side like this. Now even when you keep the visor open in this configuration, you get a very realistic and impressive looking version of Ripcord. But this is where the figure really knocks it out of the park, adding in the goggles to the breathing apparatus and helmet with the visor open. Wow, just wow. The helmet rebreather hose connects to what I believe is the oxygen canister on the side of his belt, so it actually gives it a working aesthetic. As he is a Halo jumper, he also comes with a parachute bag, which is also used by the 60th anniversary Halo jumper, though without a working parachute. It fits well on his back and has really nice detail from every angle. Funny enough, it doesn't affect his balance at all, so it can be used for your displays fairly easily. The flap does open and I assume is really meant for the parachute, but technically can be used for other gear if you really wanted to, since it is empty inside. I wouldn't open it too much though, since I feel the plastic hinges part seems to wear easily. Overall, an incredibly cool and highly detailed figure with very detailed accessories, which is a great addition to the Night Force team and will be a cool figure to own when the retro version is released. I always liked my Night Force Crazylegs figure way more than I'd probably have liked his base version. My original came with Night Force Outback as part of a 2-pack, so I'll be bringing those two out when classified Night Force Outback is released. For now, we can enjoy this classified version of Crazylegs, who is also nicely detailed and is ready to go for his inevitable repaint. Like Ripcord, he comes with a number of accessories, including a cap, which he can wear when he's off duty or training new recruits. To be honest, I prefer Crazylegs with his cap on as his helmet, although accurate in design, doesn't look as impressive as Ripcord's. Overall though, I really do like this figure and he matches up well with Night Force Ripcord given his mostly black design as well. He has that padded look to his uniform which is reminiscent of the original 1/18 scaled version and has a pretty good head sculpt, though clearly not as good as Wild Bill's. He has some jumper straps as an extra add-on to his uniform, which is not a replica of Wild Bill's or Ripcord's flight suit. The hat generally looks pretty good, though sticks out a bit, as is the case for any caps or helmets which need to be placed over hair. Like I said a moment ago, not my favorite helmet style, but it is accurate to his specialty as airborne infantry. Adding on the goggles to his helmet makes it look slightly better, but they do tend to fall off, so keeping them on and losing them could be a challenge. Like the rest of his Night Force teammates, he comes with a Night Force patch, this time in the circular format only. He also comes with a nice looking parachute backpack with some highlights. This one is way more compact than Ripcord's, as I believe they're used for different types of jumps. Let us know in the comments section if you're an expert in skydiving and can explain the difference. Glenda comes with this removable harness that can be used with any figure, so this time I'm going to show it used in relation to Crazylegs. It has multiple connector points for the straps, including around the legs and waist and down the back, to give it a very authentic feel while also being easy to use as an accessory. As a really well designed harness, it's not only functional but barely noticeable once placed on a figure, which is great for displays. The end result, a plain display type accessory that connects to this working hook on the Dragonfly to drop down or pick up Joes for clandestine operations. If you want to see how it looks on Glenda, head on over to part 1 of this review at the end of this video. You know, I never realized Glenda was actually this character's codename and not her actual first name, but I never really followed this figure, so now I know, and knowing is half the battle. She comes with some interesting accessories as well, including a bunch of different types of hair and a helmet. Glenda's a fine overall figure, but not one that I particularly wanted or needed, at least in these colors. I do think the colors are nice, but not really sure how I can fit it into our current lineup of figures, and right now I don't need a third pilot. I do particularly like her comms headgear, and I think that adds a lot to the figure, and it allows her to be used as a more ground-based operator as well as an instructor. She has these two Ninja Star looking elements on her left forearm, which looks like it came from Retro Scarlet, as does the rest of her uniform. So other than the harness around her upper body, not much unique here. As for her other look, that being with her helmet, I actually think she looks extremely good. Again, if she was a Night Force figure or perhaps had some other function, perhaps I'd enjoy her more, but with one helicopter in our fleet and 3 pilots, she unfortunately doesn't really fit. The back of her helmet is a callback to her release from South America as a repaint of Scarlet, I believe. It's a nice little homage to the original, though I don't believe her character is actually from South America given her full name. Glenda comes with a rifle and backpack with a hose. At first I couldn't figure out what the hose was for, thinking it was for a rebreather as well given that she is a pilot. And has some gauges on her backpack. But ultimately it slots into her laser. Unlike the Techno Vipers for example, I have no idea what the purpose is here. It seems like this mold is popular. As I was putting together the Night Force bonus section of this review, I noticed that Night Force Quirrell from the 2-pack with Lieutenant Falcon also uses the same general mold down to the 2 Ninja Stars. Seems like this is a popular uniform for the ladies of G.I. Joe. Other than a few differences on the add-on uniform accessories, they're generally the same all the way around. Not a big fan of either, to be honest. Now on to the fun part, where this time I'll be focusing more on the figures themselves rather than the helicopter. I honestly had the most fun setting up Wild Bill in different poses, my favorite being the one you're currently seeing. Just something about him relaxing on his copter with his hat over his eyes looks right. I'm not too sure that the rest of his team agrees though, especially since it is his bird and everyone else seems to be doing the work and prepping for their next mission. You can tell I really enjoyed his separate hat accessory since I used it in a lot of different ways, including to portray his very Texan sensibilities. Always a gentleman, Wild Bill brings that southern charm and laid-back attitude to the Joe forces. Since I showed Wild Bill piloting his Dragonfly with his cowboy hat on in part 1, I figured I'd showcase him here with that second flight helmet we have, which works perfectly in this case. Particularly if he's going into some very dangerous night ops and needs some more tech-based assistance. I took a ton of different pictures here, many of which I didn't show for the sake of time, but man do I love this look between the 2 pilots. What do you guys think? Cowboy hat or flight helmet? Ripcord and Wild Bill sure do look good in their gear getting ready to fly off on their next mission. I really like this shot of them prepping and walking towards the Dragonfly and could imagine this taking place on the USS Flag. Once inside, these guys look like they're ready to take on a whole unit of Cobra Rattlers on their own. This shot looks so menacing and very cinematic. Cobra definitely better watch their backs if they see this copter flying in over the horizon with these 2 pilots in control. Lots of great ways to display this too, with the cockpit fully open, partially open, or closed and ready for action. I really do love this copter, especially since I never had the original and hope they do make a retail version one day for all the fans. We couldn't end this section without some true action shots, with a grounded Wild Bill using his 2 sidearms to take down some attacking bats. Even in the midst of this action, he has time to do a trick shot. Always a cool pilot, even when faced with serious robotic danger. In the end though, a grounded Wild Bill and team without backup and outnumbered by Cobra isn't a good situation. It's a good old-fashioned standoff, just the way Wild Bill likes it. But something tells me these 4 are just holding Cobra off for a few more minutes until help arrives. And that's where Night Force comes in. As we got 2 new G.I. Joe classified Night Force figures with the HasLab release, I thought it'd be fun to bring them all out again and see how they all look together. Last review on Night Force was for Shockwave and the Night Force Ram, link here and below, and our team has grown a bit since then. Night Force was always my go-to special ops team when I was a kid, so I have a special place in my heart for this team. And yes, I know the designs are a bit all over the place for these guys as compared to the more unified looking teams like Python Patrol or the Mad Marauders, but they still generally fit the bill for a Night Ops team and do look pretty cool together. I also love that they mostly all have the Night Force logo, which I believe was created for the classified line. Wolf Spider is the only one without the Night Force logo, but does have his own unique one, which lines up with some of the other secondary patches some of the other teammates have. I didn't notice this before, but Coral has a UK flag patch hidden underneath her arm guard, which looks pretty cool next to Big Ben's as part of the special UK branch of Night Force. I've expanded the team a bit here with a second Shockwave as a nameless grunt with his Steel Core mask on, as well as 2 Steel Core commanders that came with the Twilight Guard 2-pack. They kind of fit into this unit with their darker colors, so for now, I've included them in our home display. What do you guys think of the growing Night Force team? Do they meet your expectations for a special Night Ops unit of G.I. Joe? So I showed you guys the incredible art on the Dragonfly box in part 1. So this time let's take a look at the individual figure packages that continue the overall numbering system of the mainline figures. All 4 are nicely designed with specific callouts to their units as well as the HasLab logo. What's really great is that they all go together and can be displayed and collected as a group. The back art for each is nice and carries the same motif, with my favorites being Wild Bills and Ripcords. The side panels come together to form this beautiful larger image of a platoon of dragonflies coming in hot, which was taken from the main box art. While the other side replicates the back of pack images, this time set up against a blue backdrop. The bottom panels have the numbering for the individual figures and a schematic of the dragonfly, with the top rounding out the packaging design with the Wild Bill logo. I forgot to add in the 3rd sticker sheet that the dragonfly comes with in part 1, so adding it in here. This can be stickered onto the dragonfly to give it a very zombie looking and gory aesthetic. So that's it, crew. We've now completed our tour of duty with the HasLab Dragonfly. Hope you enjoyed this 2-parter and it gave you some inspiration for your own collection or to try and hunt down one yourselves. Next week, we're back with Transformers Age of the Primes and the Aerial Bots for an in-depth spotlight on Slingshot. See you all next time, and remember, it's all such heroic nonsense in the end.
Dragon!